Thanks for joining Esteemed Television, ladies and gentlemen. My name is August Nambe. I have a very interesting show here today. It's a show about what took place in Ambazonia last week with Diongute. I really did not pay a lot of attention when he was in what La République calls the Southwest region. Partly because No PT was doing his work in Bamenda, so I paid a lot more attention to that because I think that's more relevant to what is going on in our territory. But last week he was in Bamenda, and Diongute and all the previous prime ministers who have been selected to come and talk to us were selected because they are Ambazonians, they are Southern Cameroonians. And so they select them to come and talk to us because in this day and age, colonization is not acceptable. And so people who still want to colonize, they can't do it directly like they used to do in the 17th and 18th and 19th century. They have to do it through proxy. They have to hide. But the fact that they hide does not change anything. What that old colonialism was doing to the colonized is the same thing today. It's just the faces representing the colonizer that has changed. And so Diongute was selected specifically because he's an Ambazonian. I have this piece where Dr. Manzu explained very clearly how when the prime minister was a francophone, he had a lot of powers. But when they were going to give the prime minister of La République du Cameroun to an Anglophone, they took all the powers away from him and they gave them, and those powers are now more with the secretaries, with the francophones, who man him, okay? So as Diongute goes around, he's just going around because he's one of us. But they have people around him, monitoring him, making sure that he is not doing our business, that he is doing their business. He's playing the role that the colonizers want for him. Look, when I'm saying this, I'm not speculating, okay? I'm not speculating. It's written. This role was defined by the French in Brazzaville in 1944. Okay, because you should always know that the Second World War created a new world, a world where the United States was determined that there will be no longer colonization. It was also the war that determined that the character of Germany had to change, because the United States went and fought the First World War. Within a very short time, just a few decades, they were back fighting the Second World War, all of them with one foe, being the Germans. So they went and they fought the last war. It is said that Franklin Roosevelt, FDR, did not want a surrender from Hitler because he did not want that war to end in a peace settlement. They wanted to smash. They wanted Hitler to end the way he ended, and Germany, as it was with its martial culture, they wanted that too to end. So the Second World War was a time when the whole world changed, the world order changed. But the one colonial power that did not change was France. France said, France cannot be France without grandeur. And so if we abolish our colonies, then we'll become like Portugal or Spain, and France cannot be France without grandeur. And so they maintain their colonies. And the way to maintain the colonies and still somehow toe the line of the modern age was to create a system where they can still survive, but survive with their colonization. And so in Brazzaville, they decided that, well, you know, obviously we can't have white faces running around wearing white uniforms and hats like in the old days. So what we would do is we would select indigents. And with these indigents, we'll make sure a few things, that they speak French well, that they're very French culturized, that's the word they use. And then we'll impose them on the people. And when we impose them on the people, then these imposed leaders will earn their spurs by the people coming. The spurs is what they use, meaning that they will earn their right and be respected by the citizens, because the citizens have no choice but to go to them for solutions. And that's how they will become legitimate and be accepted as the leaders, as their leaders, but meanwhile they're representing France. And that's how Ahidjo was selected. Ahidjo was never elected to become president of La République du Cameroun.
But with France itself already issuing a fake independence, crushing out the nationalist movement, raising their own leaders, giving them independence, giving them the power, without even going through. Mr. Ahidjo was nominated president. He didn't go through
the election. He was
not elected. So you see that when in 1961, Mr. Foncha sits with Ahidjo, I'm asking myself, who are you sitting with? This country is at war.
Yeah.
It has been at war for 6 years, and then will continue to be at war 9 years after. And the legitimacy of Ahidjo was questionable.
And then they replace him with Paul Biya. And Paul Biya has been there for this long because he has been doing a good job. Even now that the man doesn't exist but in spirit, just his aura alone, just the fact that he's still breathing, still keeps the place in order, and they're like, you know what, that works. So why change him? Okay, so Paul Biya comes in, being advised by the French, said the way to control the southern Cameroons, now Ambazonia, is to select their own people too and do the same thing. The formula works. So they select people like John Gute and the other people who have come before him. And so John Gute is coming to our territory. He was in our territory last week. But he's coming to a new Ambazonia, to a new southern Cameroon, now called Ambazonia. And he was greeted in Santa when he crossed the Matism. Matism is the boundary between La République du Cameroun and Ambazonia. When he crossed that and was trying to make a speech, there was gunfire. Gunfire went off. Now some are saying, "Oh, it wasn't separatists firing on him. It was the army trying to clear whatever." But they live in panic now. They live in panic now, and so even the shake of a grass set them running. It never used to be that way. They used to come into our land like masters, and we all were intimidated, and they had what they want. So this coming of Diongute to Bamenda this time is a different kind of coming. It's a coming that's coming after 4 years and counting of them having murdered a lot of Ambazonians, having sent a lot of them in their territory through what we now call internally displaced people, having sent a lot of them to Ambazonia and sent thousands and thousands to their graves. But the Ambazonian people have not changed. And so the weapon that they have used to impose Paul Biya, to impose Ahidjo in power and then impose and keep Paul Biya in power has been force. That force has come to Ambazonia, is not producing the expected results. This is not the first time Gute is making this particular round. Okay? This is the second time. Pretty much the same message. But it's a mission impossible for Diongute. And we will see as we see what happened in Bamenda, what they're saying. because for the first time, they are beginning to tell a story as though these past 4 years have not happened. So they're going back to page 1 after their playbook hasn't worked. So they're trying other playbooks right now.
When I hear the beginning of this conflict, so people that talk when I say President Bamenda has not declared war against Anglophones. Any man who hear the right mind, please show the president the right now. But when President talk and say don't declare war on Anglophones, nowhere, no how.
Another person who came with the Angute and was the person who I have taken time to listen to the story that La République is trying to tell. You see, when our youth went on the street, a lot of them were killed. I'm talking long before the war started. A lot of them were killed. They were just shot and killed in Commercial Avenue for showing up with peace leaves on the street. They were shot and killed. Many of them. The lawyers went out, they were brutalized. Okay? There was no talking, there was no discussion. There was no rally to say, what are you talking about? And here's what we are thinking. There was no dialogue with the people. There was no conversation with the population. It was a master who came in and wants you to obey the whip. In this case, the whip is not just a whip, it's a gun. They shot and killed a lot of them. Okay? So 4 years after, Mr. Mbayu is now standing at the Commercial Avenue. To be honest with you, they're still talking to Ambazonians because a lot of the people sitting on the grandstand were bossed in. I was reading one writer saying how they bossed them in. Obviously, Frundi himself was bossed in because Frundi right now is a turncoat. He can't even live in Ambazonia, his own homeland. But they brought him in to make part of the population and make part of the personality. And then they can talk to them and pretend. So it's a pretend. It's a pretend. But the story that they are telling is an interesting story. And I listened to Mr. Mbayu speak.
Even important people in our society, church leaders, they stop saying, oh, we are not declare war on Anglophones. It be evidence saying not in truth.
I'm not going to blame him because he comes in the name of Paul Biya, preaching the thinking of the colonizer, putting a narrative of the colonizer trying to excuse some of the things that they are being criticized about. You see, another thing I need to let you know is that when they come to us doing what they're doing, they're not doing it because they have concern about us or because somehow they're rethinking. No, they're coming because they are facing pressure abroad. You know, you should know that when La République and the French took over Ambazonia, it wasn't by war. It wasn't by war. It wasn't by negotiation with us. They were forced by the international community to come in and take over Ambazonia. Okay? The French the French just walked in. In fact, Charles de Gaulle said Ambazonia, the southern Cameroons at the time, was a little gift from the Queen of England. So they're coming now based on pressure from outside. Okay, one of the people who is in a position to know what is going on and is speaking some of what we can almost say is part of the international language about what is going on in that place in La République du Cameroun, including Ambazonia, is what Thibault Nage is tweeting. And I'm going to read a few of his tweets to you, just to show you that when you see the Angute going around and they're all trying to change their tone, they're trying to speak in pidgin, they're trying to wear our clothes, they're trying to walk like us and quack like us, it is because the pressure is hard. Okay? They would not dare send those are Francophone bulwarks, because they'll come talking to us looking like the colonizer. And the French have decided that they decided in 1944 that you will not see a white face representing France as the governor or as the person directly ruling the place. La République has done the same thing, except that they became so comfortable that they started selling their Lele Laflique, or whatever they call that man, to come and stand and practice his English in front of us. It's arrogance which do not know where to stop. And by doing that, you betray the system. You know, the Frenchman colonizes La République, but they do not have any French governors. They have French advisors, they have French controllers, but they're very careful not to overdo. Okay? They want us to think Biya. They want us to blame Biya. They want the rest of the world to think Biya and to blame Biya. And the rest of the world is doing that, but they're not doing it stupidly. Okay? Let me read certain tweets from Thibonage. Let me see. This one comes September 21st. So sorry to see increased violence in Cameroon Anglophone conflict. I've warned for years that if not resolved, conflict will get deadlier and spread. There is no military solution. What's in the human spirit cannot be extinguished with force. And he wrote this after No Pity took out a battalion of La République's military, Franco Cameroun military in Bamenda. Now, on October 1, here's what he said. Cameroon Anglophone crisis is 5 years old, but the fundamental problem goes back to colonialism. Can't understand why France doesn't see its long-term interest in helping the Anglophones gain their rights rather than supporting Yaoundé's scorched earth policy, which can't win. I'm not the one mentioning the French. Okay? It's Thibonage, and he has been in a position to know. I don't need to expand on that. On September 8th, here's what he wrote on September 8th. We all know how Southern Cameroon crisis will end. Anglophones will gain their rights either in a genuine federation or a breakaway state. I think this is the first time he's actually talking about a breakaway state. So this thing is becoming real and real every day. It's not Ambazonian saying this now. This is Thibonage, who I remember, I think just last year or two ago, he was talking about the Cameroonianness of Ambazonia. No, he knows that there's no Cameroonianness there. He was just saying it as a diplomat, maybe to please the French partners, the French ally. But he's a free man now, and he's speaking very clearly. And he's speaking his mind. He's speaking what he knows. It's not an opinion, it's what he knows. We all know how Southern Cameroon crisis will end. Anglophones will gain their rights either in a genuine federation or a breakaway state. I can also tell you that Thibonage does not believe there will be a federation. Ambazonians don't want a federation. They've already been through that. It is not legal. There's no reason to have a federation. We gave everything illegally as they were. We went along with them and they abused all of it. So Ambazonians are not going back there. And I think Thibonage knows. But he had to throw that in to appease the partners. Anglophones will gain their rights either in a genuine federation or a breakaway state. Whether weeks, months, years, or decades, it will come. Human spirit, like the lions, is indomitable. Cameroon government should come to its senses. So basically what he's saying is that Cameroon government and the French should come to their senses. Okay, because what are you trying to prove? You're not God. Because you have to change the minds of these people. And to change their minds, you have to wipe off what has happened to them from 1961, and that's impossible. That's impossible. Now, there were some I want to read a few responses about this tweet. So Fabrice came and said, I don't think federation is an option that will be accepted by Southern Cameroonians after all the losses incurred. Okay, that's what Fabrice is saying. I don't think federation is an option that will be accepted by Southern Cameroonians after all the losses incurred, after all the villages burned, after all the people killed, after the businesses lost, after children missed their school years, their education, after all the people suffering in La Republique, in Nigeria, all over the place, we have paid too much to accept something that was offered by the lawyers. If you read the lawyers' protests, they were talking about federation. La Republique said no. What arrogance! It's done. That option is not there anymore, and that's what this responder is saying. Sabru says, when America and France would and must have had an agreement or deals. He's saying that what Mr. Thibault Nash is saying will come after America and France would and must have had an agreement or deals. So this gentleman just realizes how much influence the international community has in what is happening on us. But I can tell you something. And I think this is where, of all these powers that I've been talking about, the Ambazonian people are the ultimate power. Because it is the Ambazonian people that is making Thibault Nash say this, that is making La Republique make all these gymnastics and flip, but not accomplishing anything. Because when we were just quiet, neutral, docile, following, what did they do? They send their gendarmes, they come and rape our women, they come and take our properties, stay there, they don't pay rents, they close our schools, close our factories, ruin our economy, and started and wanted to assimilate us. And wanted to assimilate us. That's what they in fact, they gave us names. We're Anglophones. We're Biafrans. We don't even belong in that land. We're not even Cameroonians like we thought we were. No, we are even foreigners. We are enemies in the house. When we're cooperating, singing Papa Hijo, making Paul Biya chief or chiefs, they're calling us enemies. And now that we've started fighting, they're sending all these delegations and suggesting all kinds of schemes to blindfold, because they are not doing this for themselves. Paul Biya and what some people call Bulu, whatever. They left to them. What would they want in Ambazonia? They would have stayed them in their land with their little dreams. It is France that has a design in Africa, and what the French are doing with Paul Biya is the same thing they're doing in all their colonies. And so Diongute comes as an emissary of France. The bee comes into our territory and murder our people in the name of France. They do that. But Diongute is sent on a mission impossible, and this day The person who I want to look at what he's saying is Mr. Mbayu. Okay, Minister Mbayu. Let's look at what he's saying in Bamenda, in front of a population that they trucked in. Because the whole of Bamenda, when the camera pans, you see that the streets are empty, but the grandstand is full. And if you look around, you see buses, which brought in this population. Most of them Francophones, even though he's talking in English, and in pidgin English for that matter. What he's trying to do is stage a drama that they will take abroad to go and please their foreign masters and hope that they will give them another day so they keep doing the Frenchman's job. But like Ambazonian says, until we reach Biya. His audio was very, very hard to hear. So what I did is I took some notes about what he was saying, and I hope that you can hear it. But I'll paraphrase it and then we can go into the speech. What he said was that I think he started by saying that that people are saying that Biya declared a war on Ambazonians. He wants to argue that. He says Biya did not declare any war on us. Can you imagine that? So Biya declared war. So he says, where did he declare war on Anglophones? And he puts it in a very flowery way. He wants to show that he's as street as everybody else is. I really don't know where to start responding to Mr. Mbayu, but I don't know if he wanted Paul Biya to put a big placard in front of his face and say, I am declaring war on Anglophones. First, it's not done that way, sir. Okay? It's not done that way. What most declarations of war do is say, if you don't do this, then we will come and do it ourselves, or something like that. Nobody comes and say, today I am going to declare war on you. Paul Biya did declare war. I'll tell you how he did declare war. On November 30, 2017, he declared war. Here's what he said.
I followed with deep emotions the assassination of 4 soldiers and 2 police officers in the southwest of our country. Following the disappearance of these 6 military officials, I would like to present my condolences to the bereaved families as well as to our defense forces. I think that things are becoming clearer to everyone. Cameroon is victim to repeated terrorist attacks from a secessionist group. In the face of such repeated aggression, I would like to assure Cameroonians that measures have been taken to eliminate these criminals and bring back peace throughout the national territory.
If that is not war to you, I think it's war to everybody else. Okay? He admitted it in Paris. He admitted it in Paris that we have been a war to assimilate these people. That was, see, the declaration of war against Ambazonian was not only on November 30th, 2017. There has been a long declared war on Ambazonians. There was, first of all, war on their economy, war on their government, war on their culture, war on their schools, war on their legal system. There has been war all over the place. And I'm going to remind you of some, okay? So he abolished the unity and renamed what was Federal Republic of Cameroon into La République du Cameroun. That was a secession from the fake union. It was fake, but we went along with it, and it was a union in fact. He came and said, no, we're not going to be a union anymore. We will become La République du Cameroun, but we are going to stay in your land. That was a declaration of war. I don't know what you call it. And they did not do that by negotiating wars. They just did it and kept their military there. And the military was murdering people with impunity. Somebody told me a story. And I think it was Gojidinka who asked Muna, who was then the Speaker of the House of Assembly, why didn't he oppose certain things? And he said, did you want them to kill me? At the time, Muna was number 2, meaning that if Ahijo was not there, or Biya was not there, Muna would have become the president of that country. But he was afraid of death. That was the time when the gun ruled. And it was immediately after they've caused genocides in their own country to establish the same people who now were doing these things. And yes, there was genuine fear. And it was not fear of imaginary fear. It was fear when they were looking at the blood flowing from the murders that have been caused in La République du Cameroun, in the Bassa land and the Bamenda lands. Exactly what they've done in Ambazonia, and it hasn't worked. No, they don't. It's always worked for them. So right now they are very confused. They don't know what to do, and so they're going back to square one again. Biya ended it because he did not only want to be the best student of the French, but he wanted to be their best plantation manager. Okay? So when Biya came, he said, United Republic of Cameroon, no. I'm going to let the French know that the Republic of La République du Cameroun that they established in 1960 is the same La République du Cameroun, but I, Biya, have added the Southern Cameroons to it with no fear of favor. We are not going to call it a United Republic of Cameroon. I would give you, France, the La République du Cameroun that you have in your history books. That's what he did. You see, I want to say something though. When Mr. Mbayu comes and is saying this, I don't want us to judge Mr. Mbayu by what he's saying. I think he knows better. He knows better. From the way he talks and from the way he knows Bamenda, he's trying to tell you that he's a Bamenda boy. That's why he's actually standing there talking, because he's a Bamenda boy. Okay? And Bamenda people are not stupid. But the man is doing his job well. He has a very bad job to do, an impossible job. They're trying to put a spin on a narrative that he knows very well. But that's his job. And he's really trying his best to do it, but the odds against him are just too much. Okay? For the first 2 years when La République cut internet in Ambazonia, SCBC was the only station that all Ambazonians were listening to for about 2+ years. And they were totally educated about their history. And so it's a good thing Mr. Mbayu is talking to foreigners, because if he was talking to Ambazonians know their story, and they're just letting you do what you want to do, earn your pay, and go home. So we know that you're smarter than that, but you have a terrible job to do. I feel sorry for you. And you're doing it with all the acting and the gusto that exists, but it's just an impossible job.